Check, check. Hello, hello, hello. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Joy, I need your help. Yeah. I don't know what's going on, but our mic is not on.
Which mic?
This mic is not working.
Oh, let me take it. Did you look at the iPad? Let me look at the iPad.
Well, isn't. Yeah, but isn't Jason on the iPad? I'm hearing something now, but
Because I tested it and it worked. I heard it.
okay. Well, I'm getting very little signal. Is the master on? Okay. Well,
Look at Ty.
no, well, he's not even here.
I know.
I just don't know why there's no sound. Yeah. Well, check, 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 check. I mean, and there's no mics. Now I'm hearing it.
I don't know.
Now I'm hearing it.
I don't
Yeah.
know where the mic is.
Well, they got removed because we're just using headsets.
That's what I thought, but I couldn't find them.
But if the headsets are turned on or they're turned low,
Yeah.
it's a problem. All right, we're ready to roll. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. How good and how pleasant it is for us to be together. It's the rabbi's week off and Shai's week off as well, so you're stuck with me. But I want to welcome you to come in. If you're just joining us, please find a seat. And I'd like to invite Arlene Nevins to come up and lead us in the lighting of the candles on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'ikner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you, Arlene. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. We'll begin on page 10 with the words of Yedid Nefesh in the middle of the page. Yedid Nefesh ורחמן, ידיד נפש ורחמן, משוכב לבד, אל רצונך ירוץ עבדך, כמו הים ישתחווה, היי לי 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 לי, אל מול הדרך. And now, I'd like to invite Ellen Safian to come on up. We're turning to page 12. And at the bottom of the page, Ellen's going to lead us in these words from Psalm 95. Careful there.
Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is a great God, the great ruler of all divine beings.
Thank you. Page 13, at the bottom of the page. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, oh, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Ya'alo sarai v'chol asher bo, az yiranenu kol hatzeyar, lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, v'yamim b'emunato. Howard? We'll turn to the next page, 14, at the indented paragraph at the top of the page.
Let the heavens rejoice and the earth exult. Let the sea and all within it thunder, the fields and everything in them exult. Then shall all the trees of the forest shout for joy at the presence of Adonai. For God is coming to rule the earth. God will rule the world justly and its people in faithfulness.
Thank you, Howard. At the bottom of the page, last paragraph in Hebrew. Or zarua latzadik u'yishrelev simcha. Or zarua latzadik u'yishrelev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, b'Adonai, v'hodu lezecher kodasho. Michael Freeman will lead us now on page 7. If you'll turn back, put your finger in page 14 and turn back a few pages to 7.
Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat abide.
Let's join together. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time. Contain the retreat of the hours and the days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. Thank you, Michael. We'll turn now to page 20 as we welcome Shabbat. But before we do that, let's welcome one another. Turn to your neighbor and say hello. Turn to someone you haven't seen in a while. Turn to someone you don't even know. And that reminds me, there are some new faces here tonight. Some faces I don't recognize, so if you'll do me the kindness of sticking around afterwards, I hear there's a great oneg, and if you could introduce yourself to me, that would be great. I'd really like to meet you, and if I haven't seen you in a while, remind me of your name. So now that we've greeted one another, let's continue on page 20 with the words of Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Mekabela Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Mekabela Shamor Vesachor V'Diborechar Ishemiyanu El Hamyochad Adonai Echad O Shemo Echad L'Shem Utiferet Ve'elitila Lecha Dodi Krakala Penei Shabbat Lekabela Lecha Dodi Krakala Penei Shabbat Lekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nehelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem lehesucha sof ma'aseh b'machshavat chila lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela. Verse 5. Hitoreri kiva orech Komi ori Shir daveri kevod Adonai Alaich nigla Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela. And now, if it's your custom, I invite you to rise to greet the symbolic Shabbat queen or bride or presence. And if it's not your custom, feel free to remain seated as we sing verse 9. Bohi v'shalom עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה, ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת לקבלה, לך דודי לקרא קלה, פני שבת לקבלה. I want to invite you to just close your eyes for a moment. The air today was very damp and heavy and humid, and it made walking around a little hard. And then it rained, which made things wet, and it's easy to dwell on the negative of that, but I want you to think for a moment about how the rain is cleansing and waters the fields that drain into rivers, that carry fish into oceans, and the air that was so heavy can fill our lungs and help us moment by moment. And so let's take a breath and connect to the rising of our chests, to give gratitude for the air and for the rain, and for this day of Shabbat, which God has given us as gift. It is good to give thanks to Adonai. So let's turn to page 22, the next page. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Join with me in the next lines. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Try that. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Tov lehodot l'Adonai. Ulezamer, ulezamer לשמחה עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמחה, לשמחה עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני. The next line we just repeat a couple times. Lehagid baboker chastecha. Lehagid baboker chastecha. Try with me. Lehagid baboker chastecha. Ve'emunatcha b'haleilot. באמונתך בלילות, טוב להודות לאדוני. Jen, would you like to come and lead us? We're going to turn back to page 9. And as we are thankful for this day of Shabbat, we're thankful for the ability to turn back in our books with our thumbs.
There are days when we seek things for ourselves and measure failure by what we do not gain.
Together.
On Shabbat, we seek not to acquire, but to share. There are days when we exploit nature as if it were a horn of plenty that can never be exhausted.
On
Shabbat, we stand in wonder before the mystery of creation. There are days when we act as if we cared nothing for the rights of others. On Shabbat, we remember that justice is our duty and a better world our goal. So we embrace Shabbat together. Day of rest, day of wonder, day of peace.
Thank you, Jen. And we embrace Shabbat by embracing our better angels, something I'll talk more about in just a few moments. Our better angels and the angels around us. We said hello to them just earlier, but when you have the chance, embrace them as well. Let's do that in song on page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitechem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei HaMlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, everybody. Close your books. Close your books and set them to your side. I might need your help with this first part. Let's try an experiment. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Okay, some people clap their hands. That's good. You've got to accentuate the positive, eliminate the, okay. To the affirmative, no room for Mr. In Between. Good, okay, we could keep going with this, right? Whistle while you work. Don't even have to use song, really. We can think of chants, right? Si se puede. Yes, we can. Ki yechol nuchalna. Oh, that one stumped you. Whether you're a fan of the 1944 Harold Arlen, Johnny Mercer song, or the Seven Dwarves, or for that matter, Ted Lasso, or if you appreciate the daily inspirational message sent to you on one of your social media platforms or your email, there's little doubt that having a positive attitude is one of the keys to success in life, to making progress, or just being happy. Now, that's not to say we can all go through life whistling away our problems or having a perpetually sunny attitude, come what may. I think we all sometimes want to bop such people on the head. Neither, however, can we go through life being a misanthrope, fearing what lurks behind every corner, and that any minute now the sky might be falling. Either approach acknowledges that in the end, much in life is out of our hands. And the truth of the human condition is that while at times we embody either extreme, we spend most of our lives somewhere in the middle. The power to improve how we feel about our lives is to some degree in our hands, those very hands which you just clapped. And how we perceive the world around us and how we speak about it is likewise within our control. This week's Torah portion is Shalach Lecha, send forth scouts. And the Eternal asks Moses to have a prince of every tribe come forward and scout out the land which has been promised to the children of Israel. Shalach lecha anashim vayaturu et haaretz Canaan. Send forth scouts to tour the land, asher ani noten livnei Yisrael, that I'm going to give to the children of Israel. And he goes on to say, check out the Negev, see how that's doing. Are the people strong? Are they weak? Is it good or is it bad? Are they in towns? Is the soil good? Is there wood? And bring back some fruit to show us what it's like. And so they do. They go up and they spend 40 days and they see the cities, they see the people, and they bring back some fruit. And those of you who have seen a bottle of Kedem wine know that there's two little guys with a branch holding a huge cluster of grapes, and that's the fruit they bring back. And the report that they share is mixed. The land is indeed flowing with milk and honey, they report. And here are the grapes. However, the people are huge. The cities are strong. And we seem in our eyes to be like grasshoppers compared to them. And so we must have been so in their eyes. Now, that's the report of 10 of the scouts. And 2 of them rebut and retort. One of them, Caleb, the other, Joshua. And Caleb says, no, that's not how this needs to go. Ki yachol nuchalna. Surely we can do it. We can overcome the obstacles. But the other men who had gone with them say, we cannot attack these people because they are stronger than us. We were like grasshoppers. Now, normally the act of doing something, of having a practice run, gives one the confidence to actually do what you need to do. It's why sports teams have practices. It's why theater companies have rehearsals. It's the can-do spirit that comes with practice and experience. And we're encouraged when we realize, in fact, we can be capable of something that we didn't think we could do. It's in the doing of the thing that's the difference. And that's why so much of Jewish tradition surrounds the fulfilling of commandments, of mitzvot, things that we're supposed to do. That's what makes us who we are. We're defined by our acts. Sometimes, though, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And it's that I think tends to reflect our truest selves and our potential to impact the world around us. Now, it's enough to let the car on the corner on the right of you to go by when you're at a stop sign. That's the law. But it's another thing when you give a friendly wave, go ahead. That elevates it to something different, right? In our tradition, it is enough to do the mitzvah, the commandment, such as, say, placing a box with some sacred scroll on the doorway of your house or your office. But isn't it nicer when you have a beautiful mezuzah that has meaning to you, right? That's called hidur mitzvah, beautifying the mitzvah, taking it to the next level. And so it is with our attitudes as well. It's not enough just to do something. You got to have that can-do attitude. Si se puede. Yes, we can. Ki yachol nuchalna. And this is echoed in the words of Psalm 100, which are, Ivdu et Adonai besimcha, which means serve God with simcha, joy, right? Surely it's enough just to say Ivdu et Adonai, serve God, right? That's all you really have to do. But the psalm says, serve God with joy. You've got to put some oomph into it. Now, the Meraglim, the scouts, those princes of the people who report back to Moses, they do collectively seem to affirm that the land indeed is good, flowing with milk and honey. 10 of them, however, are more concerned about the inhabitants of the land, their cities, their perceived strength, their size, and their own relative size in comparison. But that's not a report about the land, right? And it's not even really about the Nephilim and the Anakites, these giants. It's really about them. It's about how they see themselves. In our eyes, we seemed like grasshoppers, kechagavim, and so we must have seemed to them. No one's bothered to ask the giants. It's an assumption, one based on fear and doubt, and what follows is nothing short of a disaster. Confronted with conflicting reports, the children of Israel panic. They turn on Moses and Aaron. They wail, if only we could die in the wilderness. If only we had died in Egypt. Let us go back there. What is happening? Why would they want to return to the place of their captivity and degradation? Moses pleads with the Eternal in the words that we hear on festivals and on the high holidays. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'chanun, Erech Apayim v'chesed ve'emet. The Eternal is merciful and graceful to the 1000th generation, but the Eternal is not having any of it. The people are not ready, he has determined. They will wander in the wilderness for 40 years until this generation that knew Egypt passes from the earth, save for 2 people, Caleb and Joshua, the 2 scouts that give the positive report, but not just positive, right? Encouraging. Now, tradition teaches that this wandering for 40 years is the price our ancestors paid for insulting the land, for giving a bad report. But they praise the land. They bring back proof of its goodness, giant grapes, milk and honey. What's bad is their attitude, right? It's that they're stuck somehow in negativity, in fear. Why do they wish to return to the place of their enslavement? Because mentally and spiritually, they still are slaves. They're in a narrow-minded Mitzrayim mindset. It's not a negative report. It's a negative mindset. Now, many of you know our fellow congregant, Mickey Feher, and his company, Purpose and Company. I want to share, he just co-authored a book that was just published. I saw him unboxing it on Facebook, and I want to encourage you all to read it. It's called The Power of Mindset Change, Why Mindset Matters Most. And without diving into the content, I think you can see where I'm heading with this. The generations of Israel that came out of Egypt, who were constantly kvetching about food, about water, about the lack of decent bagels, how lousy the Mets are, they just weren't ready. They were free, and yet they were still slaves. Slaves to fear, slaves to negativity, slaves to their own past. They couldn't envision overcoming the obstacles that stood in front of them. They couldn't imagine fulfilling their own destiny, to venture forth boldly into the future, like some ancient Star Trek episode. They're so afraid of change, of their own success, that they'd rather that the whole community just wither away in the wilderness than to take action and secure their own fate. Now, however many of you clapped your hands, I'm sure the same number of us have faced this ourselves. I mean, how many of us would rather stick with what we know, what's comfortable, what we've always done? It's easier. We can rewatch what's on our Netflix queue ad infinitum. Or we can go out into that big bad world and do that thing we've been avoiding for days, weeks, months, years, 40 years. Is it better to stay in the wilderness, wandering, stuck in the past for fear of our future? Beyond that, though, beyond letting fear of change get the best of us, there's something even more insipid. Sometimes we go and we attack the agents of change who are trying to help us march forward into the future, just like the children of Israel did. They turn on Moses and Aaron, and all they're doing is trying to fulfill God's promise to take the people into the promised land. How many of us have attacked someone who's trying to help us get out of a rut, right? We've seen it in children, but I don't want to. Changing behavior is hard for individuals, harder still for a community of people. Now, for us as individuals, maybe it's something like, I need to stop eating that thing which is not good for me, right? Or doing that one thing that I know is counterproductive. But maybe when we constantly kvetch or blame others or undermine others who want to help us, we're doing something far worse. There's a term called flame war. Maybe you've heard it, flaming online. It was coined to describe how people on electronic discussion boards would escalate critical comments until there was nothing but negativity. Anyone with access to the internet these days knows it. If you've got a social media account, if you're on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, you've seen this, right? Professor Sherry Turkle, a psychologist at MIT, conducted hundreds of interviews on this topic and found that we allow behaviors online we would never allow in person. But she wrote that 15 years ago. And now it's clear that the behaviors we would never have allowed in person, we are now allowing in person. You see it everywhere. The acerbic, acrimonious way that people engage with one another. It's less dialogue than diatribe. We don't want to hear or discuss anything with those with whom we disagree, but rather simply destroy them. Now, last week's Torah portion, B'ha'alotecha, in it, some people at the edge of the camp begin complaining. And suddenly a fire breaks out. And it's deadly. And like fire, negativity spreads easily. And the destruction it brings can soon be at the center of the camp. And whether it's complaints about diet or returning to Egypt, it all serves to undermine Moses' efforts and his authority, but more importantly, his efforts to help the people. They're so fearful of the future, they want to return to the past in their minds and in their locality. Despite the harshness of slavery, they return in their minds to what they know, what's comfortable, It's easier than facing the unknown future. What's sinister about what the scouts report with their negative attitude is not the words themselves, but how they sap the community of its confidence, how they undermine its leaders. They don't have the community's interests at heart, but rather their own. They're simply addressing their own fear. And we know this because in just one more week, we look ahead, and the Parsha is Korach. Korach, Moses' cousin, who seizes control, or attempts to seize control, in a spiritual coup to grab the reins of power from Moses for his own ends, his own selfish ends. But in this week's portion, we're somewhere in the middle. And we see in the rising action, or as it were, the rising inaction, that this is where the ancient flame war is leading, to the center of the camp. And nobody's happy. So why is it so hard to change our mindset, to overcome the negativity standing in the way of our being happy and healthy and fulfilling our destiny? Maybe it's because we're not alone in it. Because mindsets and attitudes are infectious. They're like wildfire. And when we speak from a place of fear and suspicion, it doesn't just affect us or the person we're talking to. It spreads out all around. It can make a community, like our ancestors, weak or frail, afraid to take the decisive action that's needed at the very moment it matters most. Rather than staking claim to a vision for the future, the Israelites falter in their faith, not just in God, but in themselves. There's a community development strategist named Paula Jensen who happens to work with small rural communities, but she said this, which I found interesting. When negative voices in our communities start to make noise, it pulls us away from our purpose and from each other. And pretty soon people start believing what's the loudest rather than searching for what's possible. In other words, communal purpose and responsibility fall apart when individuals seize on a community's fear for their own purposes. And the question is, will we, as modern Jews, follow that bad example of the scouts? Or will we take the opposite tack and follow Caleb and Joshua? I'm reminded about my hometown of Deerfield, Illinois, which was at one point the headquarters of the Sara Lee Baking Corporation. And on a good day, when the wind was blowing just right, the whole town smelled like pound cake. And when the wind shifted just a little bit, then you caught a whiff of the sanitation plant. It didn't take much, but the difference was dramatic. The slight shift of wind, or our minds, is the difference between what smells so sweet or so bad. As humans, we are sensitive to one another's experiences and emotions, and that's why empathy is so powerful, because we don't just relate to someone's experiences, we share their emotional responses as well. It's why when we watch videos of babies or puppies being cute, we swoon and we click like. It's why political rallies or pep talks or even Divrei Torah can be so effective. It's why we love Ted Lasso, and it's why Joshua's impassioned speech foretells his rise and the assumption of Moses' role, because his relentless positivity makes him a natural leader and is infectious. While all the other scouts, all princes of the people, They're named in the Torah too, but we never really hear from them again. Their names are soon forgotten. Like Caleb and Joshua, our words also have power, well beyond our deeds. And the Hasidic master, Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, citing Psalm 100, Serve God with Joy, said that serving God with simcha means that it's a great mitzvah to be happy, to be positive, to be joyful. And, therefore, if we should find ourselves unhappy, it's our responsibility to seek out things that bring us joy and happiness and do them. Thus, we can become happy. And in doing that alone, serve God. It seems simple enough, right? So why is it so hard? It's like the song says, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. But the problem is, we don't always know it. Sometimes we just clap. You have to be reflective. You have to realize that you're happy or that you're not unhappy. And if you're not, well, I guess then you clap your hands until you are. So do we use our energies to wallow in the past and in our miseries, or do we use it to move forward into our promised land? Do we maximize our personal and communal potential, or do we stay in the midbar, sticking our heads in the proverbial sand, hoping that God will come, or that perhaps it's just better to turn tail and go back to Egypt? It seems to me that the faith the eternal demands of us isn't in letting time pass and hoping things will change, but in seizing what time we have and doing what we can to make the most of it with a positive and energetic attitude. Si se puede. Yes, we can. Ki yachol yuchalna. And if each of us do that, we'll affect one another. We'll spread our positive attitude like pound cake. Surely we can do it. It's in your hands. So if you're happy and you know it, Shabbat Shalom. We'll continue on page 28 with Baruch Hu. I invite you to rise. In your hearts or to your feet, whichever you are most comfortable. Lai 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 la la lai 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam va'ed. As we turn to page 30, Frank will lead us as we acknowledge change from day into night.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Baruch atah Adonai, Hamariv Aharavim. Thank you, Frank. Page 32. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu v'shochbeinu u'v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ויורך ימינו, ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה, יומם ולילה. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. You may be seated. We continue with words of love on page 36. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, amen. Let's read together at the top of page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, and that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Page 4. וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let's turn to page 44. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. As we turn to page 46, I invite you to once more rise in your hearts or to your feet, whichever is most comfortable, as we arrive at the central prayer of our service. Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibur ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'konei HaKol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imahot, U'mevii Gehula livnei bneihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה כל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד ההטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. Page 52. אתה קדוש, שמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך, סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. I invite you to continue in private prayer, standing or seated as is your custom. Feel free to continue your private meditations at your own pace. As we reach the end of the liturgy of Amidah, we're reminded of all the good things, morning, noon, and night, for which we are thankful, the gift of life, awareness of our soul, the light within and the world around us filled with beauty. And so I want to invite you for a moment to just close your eyes and think on the one thing this week that brought beauty and light into your life. As we say these words, Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Let's conclude Amidah, our prayer on page 62, with words of completeness and wholeness on our lips at the bottom of the page. O se shalom bimromav, o ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. May the one who creates wholeness in the high heavens make wholeness and completeness rule amongst all of us, all Israel and all the world, especially this week. And let us say amen. I'm especially thinking about those who perished in some terrible accidents this week, and those whose hearts are still rent and perhaps mending now with the announcement of the verdict of guilt of the terrorist who took 11 lives at the Tree of Life Synagogue. That news just coming out today. We also turn our thoughts to those who are in pain and suffering in our midst, those who are ill in body or in spirit. And so I'd like to invite you all to share names of those who are ill and suffering as your eyes meet mine. We turn to page 253 as we share these words of healing together for all those who are suffering. 253, middle of the page. Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. Blessed may the source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekol habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, invite you to rise once more to your feet or in your hearts, whichever is most comfortable. As we turn to page 282 for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, la'tet gedula le'yotzer v'reishit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Now לשבת, you may be seated. As we turn to page 294 in our books, in preparation for Mourner's Kaddish, we turn our hearts to those who are in mourning and those who are remembering loved ones. We are in Shloshim for a member of our community and teacher, Anna Kassar, and observing yahrzeits for Samuel Epstein, Elsie Feldman, Ira Goldman, Alan Kornbluth, Emmanuel Lerick, Ethel Wolf Lerick, William Miller, Ava Meyer, Sylvia Feldman Sherman, A. David Yadlovker, Frank Motto, Barnett Stein, and Anna Stein. If I've omitted any names or if you'd like to add one, feel free to do so now. If it's your custom to rise and recite Mourner's Kaddish in support of the mourners or on behalf of the martyrs of our people, please do so now as we say together, Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevorach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. You may be seated. Before we conclude, a few announcements and thank yous. First of all, thank you to Phil, as always, for ushering and for making sure we have the right names. Thank you for that. To the Margaloff family for bringing the challah, and to our Oneg bakers this week, Linda Diamond, Roberta Lulov, Ellen Safian, Sharon Freeman. Also contributing are Michael Ellman and Miriam Margaloff. And you don't have to be a baker to contribute to the baked goods. You can, as I mentioned before, spread the pound cake. just bring in some Sara Lee or some Entenmann's. That's perfectly good. So thank you to everyone who contributed and baked, and we look forward to everybody else bringing in some pound cake. Thank you and welcome to the members of the singles community who joined us before services for a gathering. I look forward to meeting all of you afterwards over a slice of pound cake. And what else? Torah study tomorrow morning at 9:15, followed by Shabbat morning service at 10:30, followed by bagels. So don't miss that. And I can share that, next week, just as I was flying solo tonight, and thank you for holding me and in your warm embrace. Next week, it'll be Rabbi's turn. I'll be off the Bima and attending the American Conference of Cantors Convention and visiting some family out west. But fear not, Rabbi will be here. And then the following week, we'll be welcoming Rabbi Megan Broomer to our community. Very exciting. Also, I can announce, I know you've been waiting to know, will it happen? And if it happens, who will it be? I can announce tonight that on July 13th, we will be rocking the rooftop once more with members of the E Street Shuffle, a tribute to the boss, and the music of Bruce Springsteen. So it's going to be a great time. Please join us. There'll be food, there'll be drink, there'll be music, and a lot of fun. I hope to see you all there. Okay, let's see. I'm going to invite the Kesners to come up and make kiddush and motzi, if you would be so kind. We're on page, I want to say 4. Please rise. Vayehir vayivoker yom hashishi, vayechulu hashamayim ve'aretz v'chol tzevam, vayechol Elohim beyom hashvi'i melachto asher asa, vayishpot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, vayevarach Elohim et yom hashevi'i vayekadesh oto, ki hivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim lasot zavri.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho v'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu, zikaron lema'aseh b'reishit. Ki hu yom tehila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher litziat mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashavat lechayim. Okay, and we can take this and raise it up real high. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Please join us downstairs for the oneg. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.